And hello out there, everyone in podcast land, and welcome back to the Front Row, the podcast for people who actually like movies. In the latest episode of Full Disclosure, where we take the latest movie releases and spoil the ever-living hell out of them. I'm Jeremy Geckner, the editor-in-chief of the Front Row, and with me, as always, here on Full Disclosure, it seems as always on Full Disclosure, Mr. Scott McFarland. What is up, man?
Really, what it comes down to is I'm the only one who answers your texts.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, the man has 3 kids at home and still sees every movie that comes out and runs an entire agency. I mean, where do you have the time?
I'm still waiting for you to get me that sponsorship so I can have that new AMC C3 movies a week thing.
You're gonna join the A-list, huh?
If you pay for it.
We only saw the commercial for it like 15 times when we went and saw this movie.
AMC is trying very hard to kill MoviePass. I think MoviePass will kill itself before it, though. So
yeah, I mean, in all honesty, the A-list sounds pretty good at the moment. But we are here not just to talk about the A-list of AMC. We're just giving them all kinds of free advertising. No, we're here to talk about the latest Marvel release, and that is Ant-Man and the Wasp, the 20th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe saga. It is insane to me that is the reality, but so look, as always here, people, Full Disclosure is a show where we spoil everything. We act as if you were right there in the theater seeing it with us, so we hold nothing back. And then with a Marvel movie, this warning always has to be said because it builds. So if you have not seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, bookmark this podcast, go see it, and then you can come on back for the breakdown. So we are going to get going in 3, 2, 1. Damn you, Thanos!
That's my spoiler.
We're going to talk more about that first post-credit scene. Actually, the last one, too. I think there's something to be gained from that. But
before we do that, okay,
there you go. That'll be like the snap, and then the fizz there is just everything fading away.
If half the people in the world are gone, more beer. Drink up.
Exactly. All right, so Ant-Man and the Wasp. This one comes after Infinity War, so it's already playing with a handicap. But here we go. So this movie picks up right where the last one, right where Captain America Civil War leads off, basically. Scott has been arrested. He has escaped from the raft, and yet he has still turned himself in, and he is under house arrest now as a part of a plea deal where he has to be under house arrest for a couple of years, and then he goes on probation. And what we really see in this movie is the final couple of days of his house arrest and how he still needs to help Hank and Hope to try and locate their Hank's wife Janet in the quantum realm where she's been lost. There's a whole lot of other stuff going in there, but that's the basic bare beats. We're going to get into the rest of it. So Scott, let's start off with you here. What did you think your first overall impressions of Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Well, first off, I really enjoyed the first Ant-Man. I think the reason why the MCU is here to stay is because they understand that superhero is not a genre. What the story is a genre. So Ant-Man was a heist film. This looks to be a heist film for a bit, but really it's not.
No.
But going into this movie, I was excited because, for one, again, I liked the first one. I think I was ready for a comedy after Infinity War.
Right.
And also, I have been saying this forever, and I know I probably say it too much, but I need some female superheroes for my daughters. And when I came out of the theater, I messaged you guys and I said, this is not an Ant-Man film. This is a Wasp film, and Ant-Man is a secondary character, and I stand behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. I get the same thing. I really loved the casting of Evangeline Lilly in the first Ant-Man. And when you read the reports about it, she was apparently ready to quit acting, not for any, lack of parts or anything, but she was just kind of frustrated with the whole Hollywood scene.
If you saw the last couple seasons of Lost, you'd want to quit too.
Perhaps we have to go back, man. No, but there's... I'm so glad that they got her in that role because I think she is a really good actress. And what the only deficiency I could find of the first Ant-Man was not enough hope. And they've definitely rectified that here. I mean, seriously.
Not enough hope. I think that's exactly what I said for the Infinity War review for you bastards who want to kill everybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hope the character too.
But, one of my favorite end credit scenes is still Ant-Man, because when she looks at the costume and says it's about damn time, obviously that's a character who's been saying she wants to step up with her dad for years and years and years. But that was a meta thing saying it's about damn time Marvel figured this stuff out.
Yeah.
And and it took 20 films, but this is the first film that has a female protagonist in the title of the movie.
Right.
We're going to get a Black Widow movie soon. The director's already been picked out for that, but Wasp is the first one. And I'm happy.
Marvel mold, yeah.
Yeah, I ignored DC. I'm sorry. I watched Justice League. It's on HBO. I watched Justice League again yesterday.
Oof, I'm sorry, man.
Holy Christ. I was like, sat down. I was like, it's 2 a.m. Justice League is on. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot. God.
Did you last? I mean, come on, man.
I don't sleep. So, yes, I saw the whole thing again.
Yeah, there you go.
All the CGI'd mustache glory. Yes.
If you want a better version of Justice League, everyone, go watch the How It Should Have Ended on Justice League, because that's quite fantastic. No, but you see, like, Evangeline Lilly is the heart of this movie, and it's strange because the main action of the movie revolves around Hank trying to find Janet.
Yes.
Which is I think you'll agree with me, the main plot that's moving
absolutely
forward. And that's so strange that, you know, in a story that seems like it would dominate with Hank, it's really Hope's character that comes through more.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I thought it was very, very smart, and I didn't realize this. I mean, we all knew Janet was going to come back. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer was cast. You don't cast Michelle Pfeiffer for a cameo. But also, if you go back and listen to our full disclosure on Ant-Man, which was one of the first shows I did with you guys, we were talking about how you could see Janet clearly in the quantum realm. She shows up a couple times, and they use the exact same footage again to show. Right. So this was planned out. But I didn't realize until after the film, I was like, the title is very, very good, because you have 2 Ant-Man and you have 2 Wasps, and their stories revolve around each other, Hope and Scott and Hank and Janet. And I really did love that. And I also love the fact that Hank, because I'm an old school Marvel guy, and I didn't really even know much about Scott Lang until the movie came out. I knew he was the Ant-Man at the time in the comics, but Hank Pym's my guy, even though he's an abuser in some cases. So Hank Pym being able to do something in this film and not just give exposition was nice as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love that Michael Douglas got some action beats in this, as much as a man his age can have action beats. But yeah, I mean, you remember all of a sudden through watching this movie and through remembering the last Ant-Man, what a stable of talent this one Marvel franchise has. Yeah. I mean, those are some great things. And I mean, we're going to talk even more about Evangeline Lilly, but I do want to call out Paul Rudd already, because it's just so perfect. Like, it's just such a perfect stable for him. Like, the way that these movies are written and performed, like, it suits Paul Rudd perfectly. And, like, he's able to do his, like, comedy shtick while still seeming heroic. I mean, it really is kind of amazing that works. And I think that's got to go back to the director and the writer, Peyton Reed. I mean, he is a Marvel junkie. He understands this character specifically. He sought out this character in this script once Edgar Wright left, and you can just tell that there's a lot of care that's gone into these 2 movies. And I think that starts with Paul Rudd. Probably, after you get past Chris Pratt, the most unlikely of the Marvel stable of superheroes, but somehow it just works.
I've decided that Kevin Feige's job in life is to make sure that comedians have abs. That's what his goal is in life, and he's so far doing okay.
He's doing good.
But no, the Paul Rudd stuff, the humor in this movie could get old really quick.
Oh, yeah.
There's 2 types of humor that he uses a lot. One is the dad humor, which I'm okay with, but also I don't understand the science of it, so I'm just going to sit here humor. It happens a couple times. But he's able to sell it because he's a good comedian. Another person in that role may not have been able to sell it. And yeah. So
what you were saying there, though, like, the not understanding the science, there was a part of me that kind of didn't like that at first, because I was like, wait, this guy, we take great pains in the first movie to say this guy is like a mechanical engineering genius. And we show that by how he breaks into the vault. And so at first, when that was happening in the movie, I was thinking like, wait a minute, why is he all of a sudden dumb? And then I started remembering, well, nuance exists, and quantum physics is not the same as mechanical engineering.
There's a difference between breaking a safe and breaking the universe. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I did like his line, and it's a line that's been used a lot in just other things, but do you just put quantum in front of everything?
Yeah. Well, but it's actually at a point in the movie where I was literally thinking that. I was like, man, they're saying quantum a lot. And then that joke appears. And I was like, that's perfect. And, I will call out, though, I think that he does some of the best acting in the MCU that he's ever done when Janet connects to his brain and is speaking through him. Because, that was just, I had no trouble believing that was Michelle Pfeiffer right there. Like, it was like just the way he would look at each of them was different than how Scott would look at them. It was just absolutely awesome acting, I think, in that scene.
Yeah, no. And I will get into the quantum entanglement in a while, but
sure.
I am a physics nerd. I don't know if I'm a nerd. That's all it is. But I have been really fascinated with quantum entanglement for a very long time. And the way they used it in this film is great, and the way they're going to use it moving forward is going to be great as well too.
I have a feeling there too. Yeah. Other things I like. The only other like plot, I guess you would call it the B plot, or the at least one B plot, is Scott trying to stay ahead of the FBI in maintaining his house arrest. And in that aspect, I actually really like that we develop Scott's guilt complex a lot in this. Like just the sorrow he feels for dragging Hope and Hank into all of this. And I love that, there's that one line he says to Hope, like Cap needed help. Like, well, I wasn't going to say no to Captain America. And, she just throws it back like, oh, you call him Cap, huh? So but I like that there was that development. I felt like it was just the right amount. Like it could have gone on too long. It could have been just a cursory thing, but it felt like Hope and Hank's anger towards him was justified, and that the reconciliation was earned in this movie.
Well, and that little back and forth between him and Hope also builds up Hope's character, because she's not pissed at him that he went. She's pissed at him that she didn't ask her to come.
Ask her to go, yeah.
Because at that point they're a love interest. And she says they've been training together, and we see a glimpse of that when they do a little combo fight against Ghost at the end. That these guys, at least for a little bit, we don't know how long between Ant-Man and Civil War the time gap was, but at least for a bit, these two were partners, and he just ran off.
Yeah.
And it's a jealousy that she didn't get to have a chance to fight, and it's also being upset that this person that you've invested a lot of time in felt that you weren't important enough to bring along. So I think it says a lot about Hope's character too, which builds throughout the film.
Yeah, and of course she has the best line of the movie there too. It's just like, I don't know if you would have won, but you definitely wouldn't have gotten caught. So I mean, that's pretty good stuff that's happening there. So let's get into Hope as well. Let's bring her in here with her journey in this. I think it's great that all of the best action pieces go to her in this. The kitchen fight alone is fantastic. I thought that maybe they showed a little bit of that, too much of that in the trailer, but they held back a couple of really good beats from that fight. And I'm really glad that this was the way they introduced the Wasp and her power set and the way that she fights and how smart she is in a fight. I think that mid-credit scene aside, I really hope we do get to see Hope taking on Thanos or some of his minions in the next Avengers.
Hey, you were the one saying you want everyone dead. Now that somebody you like is dead,
I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying that.
Or was it was Craig then?
I might have said it. I don't know.
You fans all want blood on your hands.
Well, no, but I mean, like it just once again sucks that it's just like now we're unsure about what we're gonna get there. I mean, we know that
that's good storytelling.
No, I know that, but like we know that we've seen her on set and stuff like that in production photos. But I mean, it's just such that uncertainty. Like we barely just got Janet and Hope, and now we have to deal with them being evaporated. And
that's why that credit scene is so powerful, because this family has gotten back together. They're starting to work together. And and we haven't talked about Ghost yet, but they're working to help Ghost,
Yeah.
and through all of this, when everything is just ready to go and they're moving on to the next phase of their life together, it all goes to hell.
Yeah.
And that makes it even more powerful.
Definitely, and we'll dissect that even more in a little bit. But you brought up Ghost there, so let's talk about the villains of this movie a little bit. We got Walton Goggins as Birch, and I got to look up her name again. I knew I was going to forget it. Like something Kamen.
Her last name's John Kamen.
Yeah, John Kamen. Which is just fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, Hannah John Kamen.
Hannah John Kamen as Ghost. Now, I think that if anybody wanted to criticize this movie, this would be a place where they might have a toehold. I mean, and it's only because of one reason, I think. And it's because you're coming off of a villain like Thanos that is so layered, that is so developed over a 19-film span, that now you have somebody who phases and is basically just trying to steal stuff. And I understand.
No, that's not the case at all.
No, I don't think that at all. I think
I'm going to say you're wrong.
No. I do not think this is a criticism. My criticism comes from the other villain in this movie, but I think that that would be a mistake to try to compare Ghost to Thanos. I think it's a mistake to try to compare this film to Infinity War at all. Like this is something that's different. It's like you beautifully put at the beginning. They don't all have to be the same thing. That's the beauty of the MCU. There can be heist movies. There can be epic space operas. That's what can work here. And so I actually think for as compartmentalized as it is, I think she's a pretty good villain. I think that, it's layered. It's there's a reason for her to be doing the things she's doing. And half the time that's what movies mess up.
Here's my thing. She's not a villain. The villain is the crime boss.
Right.
She is. This is Marvel responding to our argument for Phase 1 and Phase 2, and that was every single villain, including the Yellow Jacket from Ant-Man 1, were throwaway characters. And so now, Goggins is a throwaway character, but he's there for more comedic relief than anything else.
Right.
With this, they said, okay, we know we can't top Thanos. Let's not even have an antagonist in this film. Let's have a foil that our people have to deal with.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about, I mean, in the pantheon of the the villains of these movies, I'm not going to think about Ghost tomorrow. No. But I love the fact that they tried something new in that this girl has, from her early life, just been shit on over and over and over again, and all she's trying to do is survive. She's making terrible decisions.
Right.
But tell me, if you have lived your entire life in chronic pain, and sooner or later you're going to just disappear, whatever that may mean. That may not mean the pain's going to go away. It's just going to mean you're going to lose reality. Would you not try to do the same thing?
Absolutely. It's a beautiful analogy for, I don't know, like the way I was thinking about it was like assisted suicide, for instance. Like if you're going through so much pain for your entire life, wouldn't you take any chance you could to get rid of it, even if it's a chance that might kill you?
Well, and that much of a disability is going to affect your mental process.
Right.
So she's making poor decisions because of what's going on to her. And the enabler in all of this is Goliath, which I love the fact that he's Bill Foster. I had a thought that Lawrence Fishburne was going to play Bill Foster just because it's Ant-Man and
it's a really good fit.
And what I want now is I want them to use the de-aging stuff, and I want Cowboy Curtis and Michael Douglas to go fight people in the 80s. I want a Cowboy Curtis
so much. You know what? I'll even go one better, man. When Marvel, or when the ABC when the Disney Fox deal goes through and Disney makes their streaming service, I want to see an Ant-Man and Goliath TV show. Just cast them young, and I will watch that thing every single week.
Well, and that's I was going to bring it up sooner or later, and this is a good time. Disney and Fox so far is going through. Comcast tried to throw a wrench in and it didn't work.
And then they realized Disney had money.
Yeah. Don't screw with Bob Iger, basically. What person in the Marvel universe, and I say Marvel universe, not cinematic universe, what other person can you think of that is willing to spend $1 billion on a science lab? Give me one idea.
Tony, maybe, but
no. Come on, try.
Not a science lab. Oh, Reed.
No. Who's a villain who's going to spend $1 billion on a science lab? This dude's working for Dr. Doom.
Dr. Doom. I see where you're going here.
Paxton is working for. I'm not Paxton. Sonny Birch is working for Dr. Doom. I'm putting it on right now.
You think that? Okay, so you're playing a really long game here.
Well, Ant-Man did the same thing. Remember the little flashback at the end of Ant-Man when Michael Pena is doing his thing? The one reporter says, "We got a guy who sticks to walls."
Right.
They had not announced yet.
They didn't have that yet.
The deal had gone through.
I like this theory, Scott. I like it a lot because I've been wondering how they're going to try to, because I think Fantastic Four is the lock that they will move to the movie side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The other Fox ones, we'll see. There's so many X-Men properties out there right now, but like I think that would be great, and it'd be a great way to connect this to something else, and you can bring back Walton Goggins then, because that's the key thing that I don't like about him in this movie is that he's kind of wasted for the talent that he has.
Well, but they don't kill him. They throw him in jail, but they don't kill him.
Exactly.
But Kevin Feige understands the fan base because he was a fan.
Yeah.
And you're just the one thing that MCU is missing is for kids from the 80s and 90s, it's the X-Men. But for people who grew up when Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and Jack Kirby were running the show, the first family of Marvel is the Fantastic Four.
Absolutely.
And that is what people our age want. I mean, I would love to see Wolverine in the Avengers, and that's going to happen sooner or later. But I want to see a good Fantastic Four. And as soon as Goggins, like, I got one guy willing to pay $1 billion, I'm like, Victor Von Doom.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like, I wasn't even thinking about it from a villain perspective. So, yeah, you got me there. But, I do wish that, and, I guess if you're going to just say, yes, okay, Birch is there just for the comic relief, that's fine. It's not like they gave him, like, some particularly sinister deeds to do. He's not, like, killing anybody in the movie or anything. You're right. He is just kind of a goofball. Yeah, but I don't know. I just wish that you would, and you're right, maybe they're setting him up for something bigger, because I was like, we got Walton Goggins here. I mean, this guy is fantastic. I mean, if you've never seen Justified, people go and watch it because he is amazing in it. And
I always remember him having breasts in oh shoot. Oh God.
Yeah. I can't remember it either.
Like show that ended crappily, like Lost. Yeah, well, whatever. I'll think about it 10 minutes from now.
Either way, he's a fantastic actor, and I was just thinking, we can't find any more for him to do in this movie. But you're kind of right, though. You don't really need him to do any more in this movie than what he is, because you're right, it is a movie without villains.
Sons of Anarchy.
There you go, Sons of Anarchy. Why couldn't I think of that? So let's talk a little bit here about the Quantum Realm then, and Janet Van Dyne. Obviously they teased this in the first Ant-Man. They wanted it to go here. It was obvious that it would. Did it live up to your expectations of going to the Quantum Realm and trying to get Janet back?
I mean, I said because I went back and listened to our full disclosure on Ant-Man, I said that Strange was going to come into play here, and obviously he didn't, and obviously he's not in play at all right now.
I mean, look, a lot of Strange's visuals look like the Quantum Realm.
Well, no, because it's all the same. I mean, Feige said years ago that their magic is going to be science-based, and we started that with Thor 1, but the Quantum Realm is another dimension, like the mirror dimension and all of that. So, but I enjoyed the quest of a father and daughter trying to get their mother home. And throughout the film, just when they're sitting there trying to get things accomplished and things are falling apart, they get so close and it gets torn away again. You can see in Lily and Douglas's eyes that they're just heartbroken over and over again. And so when you finally have Janet walk up, and right when it looks like Pym is going to, bite it, it's a perfect time to bring her in. And she's such a good motherly character that she comes in, she helps him, she helps her daughter, she helps Ghost. It's just, you can tell that she was the glue that kept that family together. And it makes more sense why that family completely fell apart when she died or left.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that, yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer is the absolute perfect casting here. You're right. The maternal instinct is what really comes through. And what's funny is that now, like thinking about the last couple of scenes, and then thinking about the scene where Paul Rudd is being her, it all like fits together.
Yeah.
Like it's very similar the way she talks and the way Paul Rudd does in that scene. I love that. I just love that. Yeah, like her first instinct isn't to fight Ghost;
No.
it's to help her.
Yeah.
And that's something that, in the MCU, in all of these 20 films, you like, that's the bad guy. We have to stop the bad guy. Don't, stop him. Don't ask questions, whatever. Now they're starting to get into that nuance a lot more. And I like that. And I like it, especially in the context of you talking about bringing in Victor Von Doom and all that stuff. Like, there's a whole pantheon of great complex villains that might be coming into the MCU soon. So, but I do think that, like, I'm anxious to see, again, it sucks that fucking snap. It's just like, we just got her back. She's got these powers from being in there so long. Like, how are we going to reconcile this?
They're all going to come together. I go back to I seem to be the minority on this with our group, but at the end of the day, we're going to have a happy ending, and it's going to be an ending to the first 4 phases of MCU, and we're going to go off and do other things, and interconnectivity probably won't be as big as it was before, but they're setting a lot of stuff up here. We already know that based on set photos that either dimensional travel or time travel is going to happen, because they're going back to the Battle of New York. Chris Evans has been seen in his Avengers 1 uniform, and Paul Rudd was there on set with them in the Ant-Man suit. The difference was they had little bands on their wrists.
Wristbands, yeah.
And right before the snap happens, Janet says, "Be careful you don't hit a time vortex." Okay, so time travel. Right. But also, quantum entanglement is an amazing theory.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the whole idea of it is, if 2 things, and it could be as small as a molecule, it could be something larger, become entangled, they could be split to the other side of the universe, and when something happens to one, the same thing happens to another. That's very, very simplified, and it's a lot more detailed than that. It has to deal with probability and everything else. But for the point of this being a comic book film, they're interconnected, and we saw that in the scene where she takes over his mind for a bit. And by the way, if any other actors other than Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas tried to hold hands like that, it would have been so bad.
Well, I think, but also, just quick sidebar, the fact that when I saw this movie, nobody laughed at that. Nobody laughed.
It was a heartfelt scene.
Yeah, like, it was actually the 3 of them reuniting in that way. It was so earnest, and nobody in there was like, maybe there would have been a chuckle here or there because Paul Rudd's making a funny face, but like, it wasn't until he came back and you hold the hand up and stuff, that's where the laugh came in. And I'm just like, man, that's great tone building there. But continue.
No, I mean, this man, Hank Pym, watched his wife sacrifice her life, and he has spent the last 30 years trying to find out if she's dead, and if she's not dead, bring her back. And any connection, even if it's going to be in Paul Rudd, is going to be a heartfelt connection. So I did appreciate that a lot. But so my thought here on this is they're still entangled. And so wherever Janet went, which call it the Soul Stone, call it the Quantum Realm, call
Ash
it
whatever.
There's going to be some communication there in Avengers 4. And
that makes sense.
At the end of the day, we know through offhand remarks from some of the actors that there was at least one day of filming where everyone was together, kept together.
Oh God!
At least 4. I think 4 actors have said, and I'm not going to list them off because I'll be wrong on which ones they were. Have said there was one day where they shot with everybody.
God.
So it's going to happen.
It's that poster on Kevin Feige's wall, people. I'm telling you though, like, you're right. Like, the quantum realm opens up so many possibilities, and the fact that they're playing with something like quantum entanglement theory in a mass appeal movie is just is just insanity. But that's the stakes that Marvel has built. Like I shudder to think if DC tried to do something like that.
Well, and without bashing DC, if DC did what Marvel did and took 10 years to guide us here, we'd be okay. We'd be okay with it. We'd be okay with Martian Manhunter doing some weird shit in the 80s that now brings up back up in 2018.
Right.
But Warner was too busy trying to make money and they failed.
Right.
And if I see one more news article about a Snyder Cut, I'm going to punch somebody in the face.
Oh, for God's sake. We don't even need it, people. Come on. It's not going to save anything. All right. Well, there's only one other group of people to talk about here before we get into what didn't work for us, and that is the sidekicks of ex-con.
I love that they call it ex-con.
Yeah.
It took me a couple times to look at it. I was like, oh, I get it.
You're all ex-cons. I'm going to try to look up their names here because I only know Luis.
I got it. I got it right here in front of me.
Okay, good.
T.I. is Dave.
Actually,
no. T.I. is called T.I. I guess. And then I've got him. Bobby Cannavale is Pax. No, that's not right. Damn it.
We got David Dastmalchian.
Thank you, as Kurt. Thank you,
as Kurt. Look, they were definitely one of the hidden gems of the first Ant-Man because they were in it just enough. Like they were in it just enough to be fun and to be a good add-in. I think that they did it quite again here. I mean, I think they might have overexposed Louise just a little bit. But Michael Pena was such a standout from that movie. It's kind of like, that's what you do in the sequel. You take what worked and you give them more. But I think that, the hero beats that Dave and Kurt get at the end, to help everyone out is good. What did you think? Do you think Luis was a little too much in this, or do you think just the same amount?
I think the truth serum stuff got a little old. That joke ran a little too long, but
it was funny at the beginning. I'll give it that.
As soon as he pulls out the hot rod car and he just has that like look of a 15-year-old kid who just was given a hot rod and said, "Go save the world." And that's just when he does the leap over the hill and he's in Micro Machine mode and he's just smiling and giddy as hell. I love Michael Pena. I love him.
He's really fantastic in that moment. You're right. I think you're right. Like the truth serum part. It gets a little old. I do like the very first part of that joke though, where like Birch's all his associates just like, no, it's not. Like it's not this at all. And come on, Scott, why are you stacking plates in the top shelf of the dishwasher? Come on, man.
That little banter is fun. I appreciate that because if you have to live with some dude for 2 years and he was your cellmate, you're going to have some issues.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be the little shit that just drives you nuts.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to say, I do love that they kept his fast-talking recap segment in this movie. I wasn't sure about where it was, though. I mean, it kind of felt like, oh, and here's this because, we have to put it in. Yeah. So I don't know if I like the placement of it, but I do like that they did it, though, because that was definitely two of my favorite parts from the first Ant-Man.
I could have done without it. It's a recall to what we liked in the last one, which I love the fact that everyone was so hard on about Edgar Wright not being the director, and everyone's like, well, look at those two scenes. Those two scenes are pure Edgar Wright. No, they were not in the script when Edgar Wright left. Those were Peyton Reed
wrote those,
putting those together.
Yep.
But when they started doing it, I was like, oh, they're doing this again. And yeah, it's kind of funny to get a little bit more of the background, not only of what happened between Ant-Man and Civil War, but also what happened before Ant-Man. We got a hint that Pena and Rudd met in prison, and seeing that was kind of fun. And
yeah,
again, just these two guys are man children. It's just they're like, hi, I'm going to be your friend. I am in prison. It's cute, but I can deal without that little thing again. I'm good.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good segue into things that didn't work. And, we've actually kind of hit on them mostly. So, I mean, I'll just recap. I wish Walton Goggins would have had a little bit more to do. The movie's pretty lean at 1 hour, 58 minutes. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I saw it at 10:30 at night, and I'm once you get kids, you're just like, whoa, 10:30 is your bedtime. But maybe they could have cut a little bit here, a little bit there. But that's mostly it. Like I don't have a ton of things. I thought I would after seeing it, because in my head, I was comparing it to Infinity War. It was just like, oh, well, we just came off of Infinity War and now there's that. And I think it was Craig who told me in our chat that, like the stakes felt pretty low coming off of Infinity War, which, look, again, if you're comparing them, sure, the stakes feel lower because they have to. But I think that, once you get past the Infinity War hangover, you get there and you think to yourself, oh, well, yeah, I did like that. Oh, I did like that too. Oh, and that too. So, I mean, I think, getting over the Infinity War fatigue kind of helps this movie.
But how many times have we complained, we being the fan base, have complained that every single superhero movie has to deal with the destruction of Earth?
Right.
And every Star Trek movie, no matter where they are, they have to go back and save Earth.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's the stakes can be low as long as the characters and the story is something that engrosses you. And I truly, and I always harp back on this, and I know people get tired of it, but to really truly appreciate this film, I think you have to be a father or a mother, because there is so much interplay between parents and their children. I mean, and we haven't even talked about Cassie, but that interplay between Rudd and Cassie, or Scott Lang and Cassie, where he is just trying everything to regain those years he lost, and it's just magical. But I guess for things I didn't like, I did not like the fact that Janet did not get to use her wing sword, because that thing looks badass. Yes. Actually, it wasn't even a sword. If you look at it, it's a bow that has blades on both sides, because there was a blade on the end too. I'm just like, I want to see Janet rip somebody to shreds with her wings.
Man.
I really do. She has to go after a tardigrade and just destroy it with those wings.
Oh, man. That would be sweet. And, well, actually, just because you talked about Cassie, is just like, yeah, I mean, man, you want to talk about waste. I mean, Bobby Cannavale is there for literally 2 jokes and gone. And that kind of sucks, because Paxton was, he definitely was comic relief of the first movie, but also he had that heroic moment at the end trying to protect Cassie. And, where you get to see that, this isn't some jerk guy, he actually does care about these two, the 2 women in his life, and he wants them to be protected. And so I wish they could have found something for him to do in this movie.
I agree, and I'm struggling to figure out how they could have, because usually what happens with a sequel is you have to reset everything, and this sequel does the same thing. They were good to go at the end of the film. We're seeing Hope and Scott kiss in the hallway, and now everything is reset. They're back to being not together. Sequels do that. So, I mean, the only way you could have really got him more involved is to have him be another foil again to Scott somehow. And they've replaced that with Randall Park's character, Agent Woo, which Agent Woo did nothing for me. And he was the other thing I just didn't like. He did nothing for me.
The shtick was fine for the first 2 meetings, but then it kept going, and then it culminated in the ultimate awkwardness at the end that just went on way too long.
You want to go to dinner with me? No, really, I don't. No.
I mean, I'll give it to him. They play it as funny as it can be played, but at that point, it's just, we're done with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the interplay of Scott having to keep his real life safe while also having to live up to these high expectations that no one ever asks for.
Right.
And so you have to have something to play off of that, and the FBI is what they've gone with. But you have enough funny characters. You have Pena. You have Rudd. You don't need a hapless FBI agent who runs around not knowing that an empty costume is a giant. And, and it's in. I haven't seen Parkin much, but he always seems to play that same kind of hapless character, and it's disappointing for him, because he seems like he's a good actor, but I see the same thing every time.
His big thing is the ABC show, right? What, Fresh Off the Boat?
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so I mean, at least he's got a steady gig that he can go to. I will say, I do want to ask you one question though before we get into the mid and post credits, which was a lot was made of, are they going to overexpose the giant man aspect of this movie? And I think that they actually played it pretty well. And I love that they do it by messing with that size regulator on the new Ant-Man suit. And it culminates in that hilarious sequence in the school. Yeah, like I thought that especially like the water sequence where, he collapses in the water and they have to go get him, and especially leaving the giant suit up next to the building. I think that they threaded the needle pretty well with that.
Yeah, and I think they've done a good job both in Civil War and now of making that. I go back to Last Starfighter. It is the Death Blossom. It's a one-off. When you use it, you're going to wind up passing out for 3 days.
Right.
So you cannot use it every time you need to, and he is completely exhausted to a point where he nearly dies being Giant Man. And I also love the fact that the newsreels, when they're showing the aftermath, or no, they're showing during the scene, they're calling him Giant Man. I really did appreciate that little callback. But no, I think they've done well with that, because again, he's not going to be able to do that all the time. And I also I enjoyed Bill Foster and him having a dick measuring contest. I really appreciate that. I got to 21 feet. Well, I've been to 60.
65. Yeah, but I love that it wasn't even, but when he does that, he's not like exacerbated. He's just like, what? Like, like his scientific curiosity can't help but just come out. So yeah, I think that they did a good job with that too. All right, well, as this is a Marvel movie, let's talk about some after credit scenes. We've already discussed it a bit, but of course in the first one, they built a mini version of the quantum tunnel, and Scott's going down there to get some particles so that they can help Ghost. I really want to know your thoughts on that, about what exactly that might be. But as Scott is communicating with them, all of a sudden the snap heard around the universe. Thanos has evaporated Hank, Hope, and Janet, and Scott is stranded in the quantum realm. So what did you think of this post-credit scene?
I really enjoyed it. As soon as you walk into this movie, it has to end with that. You don't know if anyone's going to not make it. You don't know if everyone's going to go down, but they have to tie it in. And so as soon as the credits start rolling, I turned to my daughter and I did the snap. And she looked at me, and at first she had no idea what I meant, and then her jaw dropped, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
No. My 8-year-old daughter's like, no. I'm like, yes. and of course, that's what happened. But there's so much going on in those few minutes. Again, I've already mentioned the family is back together, and it is the family of the Van Dynes and Pym, but also Lang has been brought into the family.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that as much as we were told that Hank Pym was the end-all be-all scientist, we learned several times in this film that he was nothing without Janet. And so
Janet's or at least just as smart.
Yeah, and Janet was the one who micro whatever the tunnel. And so she's the one who's able to make this tech work. And then I also love the fact, again, going back to the fact that Ghost was not a villain, that they're trying to help her. And also the little tap did not fix Ghost. It only brought her back a little bit. Right. So that allows for Janet's powers not to be godlike. She just has the ability to do some work based on that. And so it does a lot of depowering people. It does a lot of setting up this Ant-Man franchise for later. And there's a lot of foreboding involved, because when you're watching this, something's going to happen. And when he goes into the quantum realm, you're just thinking, this is the worst possible place you could be when this happens.
Yeah. Talk about your all-time bad, wrong place, wrong times. No, but you actually hit the exact point that I wanted you to on Ghost there. I was hoping you would, which is, yes, Janet's power, she is not God, she does not cure her with a touch, like this is going to have to keep going. And I love the fact that they are doing all of this. They're microtizing this. They are going in there to collect these particles for her. Sure, they're going to research them too, I'm sure, but the primary focus here is to get these to help her. And I think that that's really, really awesome. And again, shows that you're right. There is no villain in this. There's just a opposite of the coin. I am very interested in how things are executed in movies. And, you're right. Any Marvel fan, anybody who's seen Infinity War knows that something has to connect. And by the time you get to those just exquisite first credits of where they're building the miniatures of the scenes in the movie, those are just fantastic. But that it has to go there. It has to go there in that scene. So how do they execute it? And they do it perfectly. They do it to a point where even I was sitting there knowing it had to be coming, thinking, oh, I don't know, maybe it won't, everybody's happy here. Maybe that was it. How on earth, though, does Scott get out of this? Because, what I love is, I think it was you on the Infinity War one. I'm almost certain, Scott, it was you that said, Tony is exactly where he was in the first movie. He's stranded somewhere far from home with no tech, find a way to get home.
Yep. And it's a desert.
Yeah, and it's a desert. And, it's very similar to where Scott is now. You are in the quantum realm. You've got no tether. Find your way back like you did in the first movie.
Some people complained that Ant-Man and also Hawkeye were not in Avengers 3. And this brings Ant-Man into Avengers 3 because at the end of Infinity War, you have everyone at their lowest. Again, the most striking scene for me out of Infinity War, and again, it's because Cap has been my favorite superhero since I was a kid, is him looking off in the distance and just going, oh God.
Oh God.
Because this is the man who should be able to stand up and lead no matter what. He has dealt with the Nazis, and he is sitting there going, I am completely lost. I have no idea what I'm going to do next. Tony is completely lost. He has seen his de facto son die in his arms, and he is sitting there with a raccoon and an android and having no idea. Oh, no, raccoon's off in
he's just there with
he's sitting here with an android going, I have no idea what's going to happen. And Ant-Man's in the same place, which is perfect storytelling. We have got, this is the end of Act 2, and all of our heroes are in their worst possible places they can be. And so it sets up for an amazing part 4, which again, I'm sorry, all those who want blood on your hands, part 4 is going to be an uplifting story where everyone comes together and saves the day.
I would think so. Because I wouldn't have thought that if Infinity War wouldn't have ended how it did. And you're right, because that, no matter how many times I've seen it, that snap breaks my heart every time. Yeah. And the fact that, and the way that, again, execution, how they shot it, the individual scenes, Rocket looking at Groot fading away, Tony having to hold Peter as he fades away, all of that, it breaks your heart every time. And you're right. This is something I really hope, and this is just me, I really hope that Avengers 4, we have some time that's gone by.
Yeah,
I hope it does not pick up with Cap and everybody else in Wakanda saying, well, crap, what do we do now? Let's go. I want it to be a couple of years later and everybody's had to deal with this.
I don't know about a couple of years, but it's going to be a bit. I mean, for one, and this is, again, just knowing from set photos and leaks, we know that Hawkeye is now Ronin.
Right.
Which tells me that Hawkeye's children
family is gone. Yeah.
So, because that's the only way he's going to go to be Ronin. So it's going to have to be a little bit just because he's going to be doing that. But I can see it being a few months or something, enough time to get Tony back to Earth. Because at the end of the day, too, the one meeting we have not had yet is the coming back together of Steve and Tony. That has to happen.
Yeah, it still hasn't.
And
they still haven't talked. I mean, people forget it's Bruce that calls Cap. I mean,
yeah, it has to happen. Even if it's the very end of the movie, it has to happen. But going back to this film, yes. Here's my theory, and my theory was completely wrong when I said that Doctor Strange was going to get Janet back. So I'll probably be wrong again. But I believe that the connection between Janet and Scott is going to be what finally reveals to us that the people we thought we lost are not gone.
Very logical.
And Janet knows the quantum realm. So it'd be very easy for Janet to communicate through Scott again and say, here's what you need to do. you need to find your way to X, Y, and Z, and that will get you out. And I think it's going to have to do with time. And I think it could easily be something where Scott realizes first that, hey, I can do some traveling here to get us before the snap. And then he brings Tony and Steve along. That's what I'm hoping for. So the other thing I wanted to point out about the snap is one of the really good moves that the screenwriters or the directors of Infinity War, one of them made, was that they made the snap painful. It wasn't just like the comic book where you just disappeared and you were gone.
Right.
When you watch these folks at the end of the credits, they are in pain. Hank bends over and like he's having another heart attack, which that heart attack scene, by the way, in the middle of the film was rough because I thought for sure he actually was having a heart attack. And the little Altoid can that turned out to be giant ants was amazing. But as somebody who has a father who has to use nitroglycerin a lot, it was painful to watch that scene. But when you're watching anyone disappear in Infinity War or in Ant-Man, you can see on their face the fear and the pain, and I think that was a very smart move. It makes it more surreal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I obviously from Infinity War to this, you're right. Like it has cost, and that we're continuing to see that cost throughout the MCU even after Infinity War makes me very excited for what we're going to get with Captain Marvel coming up in March. God, we have to wait so long for another MCU movie. We've been spoiled the last couple of years, people, by getting 3.
Feige has come out and said expect 3 from now on.
Okay, well,
because he said, the only way you can keep these franchise sequels going, as well as building new shows, is to have 3 a year. So next year is Captain Marvel, Avengers 4, and then Spider-Man Far From Home.
Which that there's so much exciting stuff happening with Marvel right now. But let's quickly hit the last scene. It's one of those funny little tags, Howard the Duckish. But this one's a little better, I think, for 2 reasons. One, I like that before they pan to the ant playing the drum set, there's the TV, and you see that it's off the air and that we are in the midst of the snap and that it has far-reaching consequences. And the other is of course, what we always come to expect at the end of every single Marvel movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp will return with a faded up question mark. Now, I personally think this is just Feige and Breed just trolling us. Obviously, both of them will be back, but I can tell you there was just a loud audible like in the theater when that question mark came up because they're just messing with something that's been a steady for 19 films. What did you think of this last scene?
It's aside from the end credit scene where we learn of Captain Marvel and Infinity War, this is the only time where we've seen the result of it, and I really do like the emergency broadcast going on the TV. It shows impact. When the show I'm reminded of when it comes to this is shit. I will edit this, but it is
100. Is that what?
No, it's God, mother flocker, The Leftovers.
That's right.
Yes, The Leftovers,
HBO,
which is a really good show, and so it deals with those who are left behind, and I got that kind of vibe here with this, but also I do when it comes to the question mark. That is classic Marvel comics right there.
Oh yeah.
It's just, it harkens back to getting to the last page of an issue and will they make it? Will they not? It's fun. The one thing that we thought could happen there is I expected Ant-Man and the Wasp will return in giving us the title of Avengers 4, but they're going to hold off on that a little bit longer. So I have no doubt. Again, I think I said this. It was in one of our full disclosures. It wasn't Ant-Man. I think it was. I don't know, but I said this back 300 episodes ago that somewhere in Kevin Feige's mind, he has this amazing idea of getting everyone on the set at the same time to film something. Wasp will be a part of that. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think Ant-Man has to be, as we've seen from the photos. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ant-Man's an original Avengers. So I actually like the fact that when the snap happened in Infinity War, for the most part, the only ones who survived were the original Avengers from the MCU movies. But I also appreciate the fact that Ant-Man is an original Avenger in the comics, and he survived as well too. So we're going to have more of the original Avengers from the comics than we did in Avengers 1, which is fun.
Right. So do you think that, just real quick, do you think that the days of like two meaningful end credit scenes are done? That it's always going to be one big one and then one funny one?
I almost think that they're kind of stuck. I wonder if they even care about these anymore. I mean, they do occasionally have a meaningful one. This one is fairly meaningful, the first one. But I mean, there's other movies where they have nothing. I mean, I go back to Spider-Man: Homecoming. I mean, I love Cap, but that was completely pointless.
Patience.
Yeah, it was completely pointless. And I think at this point, if Feige had his way, they'd probably get rid of him, especially when Phase 5 is going to be less interconnected than the other ones have been. But at this point, we expect it, so they have to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like I said, as long as if you're going to do a funny one, that's fine. As long as you give us a little something, and this one did give us those two little somethings, because I think that the TV is significant to me because it's just it shows that this is not limited to Wakanda or to Titan. Yeah. This is everywhere. Every person is going to feel the effects of this.
What I expected and what I wish they would have done, and it would have been very, very dark, so it's probably why they didn't do it. Instead, they had an ant playing GarageBand or whatever. But I expected Casey to walk through the door looking for her dad.
Yeah.
And that would have been so you could have done the exact same thing. You're panning. The door opens, and there is this little 10-year-old who is completely lost in the Armageddon. And I think that would have given us a very downer moment, but also given us a feeling that Scott has to get out to save his daughter, because everything he does in both these films is all encompassing the fact that he wants to protect and to be good for a good dad. That's all it is.
Well, and you just hit upon one of the big theories out there in the fanverse right now, is that apparently there was a casting call for an adult Cassie in Avengers 4. I haven't seen this, which is usually what you find when you go to Reddit. But, there are theories out there that maybe with the time jump, Cassie will need to find a way to find her dad. And that kind of belies the point of her wanting to be a hero like him and wanting to be his sidekick and stuff like that. Now me, I'm just like, that's just cute kid stuff. I want to be like my dad. But it's an interesting theory.
It's a theory that I don't think it holds much weight, because you have too many characters as it is. So I can see it as I already said, Scott realizes he can travel through time, and what easy way to do that is to use a 2-minute scene of him moving forward first, seeing the aftermath, so you can see the hell on earth that comes, and we have to prove that Thanos is wrong.
Right.
And the whole idea of Infinity War was Thanos had an idea and a theory, and we have to prove he's wrong, because if not, it's too nihilistic for the Marvel Universe and too nihilistic for me. So I can see him going into the future and seeing Armageddon and what it looks like, and then also realizing he can now travel through time, going back, getting Cap and Tony, getting the gang back together, and kicking ass for the last half of this movie.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely hoping for a big arc for Ant-Man in Avengers 4, and I think just based on the quantum entanglement theories that they're playing with, that really might happen, especially the ones you're putting forth there. So, all right, let's wrap it up here. On full disclosure, we always give our grades out of 10. Scott, let's let you go first. What do you give Ant-Man and the Wasp out of 10?
This is one of the, much like the original Ant-Man, it's a fun movie. I will see it again. I'll enjoy it again. But is it going to be one of those that I pull out and say, this is a Marvel movie I go see? And when I'm bored and I want to pop it in, probably not. And so I think it's a good movie. It's a fun movie, but I'm not going to give it like a higher echelon score. So I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay. Yeah, I'm right around there with you. I'm at a 7.5, I think. It's fun. I want to see it again. I think when I see it again, I will massively enjoy it. But you're right. It is a smaller feeling movie, and right now we are in the big bombastic part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so I think this is one that will get appreciated more with age. I think, the further along when we're like 40 movies into this thing, people will look back and think, oh, yeah, that was a really good movie. And especially if they continue to build on the Wasp mythology and on everything that can happen with that. So, I'm at 7.5.
And I think you hit it there. No matter what happens, whether the MCU goes on for 40 films or 25 or whatever, this was the first film that had the female superhero's name in the title, and that means something for Marvel.
Yeah.
I wish they would have beat DC. I think they could have beat DC, but at the end of the day, it finally happened, and it's about damn time, to quote Hope.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Full Disclosure. As always, you can find me online on Twitter at JGeck, JGOECK. Scott, you're on Twitter, right?
Yeah, let's just keep it with ours.
Yeah, okay.
I don't use my personal Twitter that much.
You can find Scott's thoughts on the Front Row Twitter feed of Front Row Reviews with a Z. Of course, you can find the rest of the network on the Front Row Network on Facebook or at thefrontrowmoviereviews.com. And of course, you can always email us at thefrontrowmoviereviews@gmail.com. So coming up here, we have a lot of stuff coming out this month. We've started a brand new system where specific shows get specific weeks. Last week, we kicked it off. Guilty Pleasures will now always be the first week of the month, and Lou Hare brought us Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
There's no pleasure in that.
Nope, I had to live through that one as well, but we did announce on that the very first inaugural Front Row Flicks coming up August 7th at the Hoagland Center for the Arts in Springfield, Illinois. We will be screening and discussing with you, the audience, Raiders of the Lost Ark. So go to hcfta.org to get your tickets for that. They are going pretty fast. So
I am excited to be discussing the second best Indiana Jones film in the franchise.
Yep. Absolutely. So other than that, so this week we have Beyond the Mouse coming up with Craig McFarlane. Oh, actually, that's next week. We have Beyond the Mouse coming. He's going to be talking Tangled with Lou Hare. Also, this week we have Legally Blonde coming out as a very special episode with the cast from the Springfield Muni. And then the next week, Scott's up with Flashbacks. What do you got on tap for Flashbacks, Scott?
I'm next week or I'm the week after?
The week after.
Good. I have 2 weeks.
There.
I promised Ryan we would do Willow. So we'll be doing Willow. Man.
It's celebrating an anniversary soon, isn't it?
It's the 30th was last month, but I gave Jurassic Park the go ahead.
Well, that was smart. We got there seemed to be a little film that came out that necessitated that. If you haven't listened to our Jurassic World Full Disclosure, it is my second favorite Jurassic Park film. Yeah, and actually I loved that episode because you hit on everything that I thought. Like I loved the science of that movie, so you hit on everything there. And then finally, to close out the month, always on the fourth week now, will be Classics with Brandon Davis, and he is going to be talking The Godfather with Lou Hare. That is going to be a very interesting episode because Lou just taught that in his film class up at St. Ambrose. So I can't wait to hear the two of them talk about that. Other than that, Are You Afraid of the Podcast? We got 2 more episodes in season 2. We've got The Hatching and Old Man Corcoran. And then we have an interview with the creator of Are You Afraid of the Dark, DJ McHale, that we will be dropping. Scott, I know you just dropped another episode of Zonasodes. What else is coming up on that for the month?
We are about 6 or 7 episodes to being done with season 2 of The Twilight Zone, 1961. And we are trying to do it weekly.
Yep.
Life gets in the way, but we have the next one in the can, so there definitely will be a Zonisode this week because we recorded it 3 weeks ago.
There you go. So that's how it works, people. That's what happens when you're running a network. So obviously, we are not short of content here at the Front Row Network. So be sure to go to the frontrowmoviereviews.com or Front Row Reviews with a Z at Twitter or the Front Row Network on Facebook. Man, we talked for a while. Let's get out of here. What do you say, Scott?
Fine by me because I have to edit this thing.
That's right. All right, well, that's going to do it for the Front Row Network. I'm Jeremy Geckner.
I am Scott.
And we will see you in the front row and the quantum realm.
The front row sucks. I never sit in the front row. When I didn't know if there was a final scene for the end credits, I checked on my phone, and we moved up to the front row, and I sat there to watch the ant scene. And, oh, my God, the front row really does suck. Never sit in the front row.
No,
Never.
Just listen to the front row, and that's it.
Yeah, well, yes. But don't sit in the front row. It sucks.
Exactly. Peace, everyone.